Like Shalom, giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Ba'Hashem HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Shalom to you, Akim, pushing this word around the globe in faith, within truth, and with sincerity. As always, I'd like to start by saying we are the real Hebrew Israelites. The real Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, and West Africans predominantly. However, you are going to get Israelites that do look like the other 17 nations because Israel has been scattered amongst all people throughout our various captivities. But if the line of your forefathers goes back to the man in the Bible who was named Jacob, then you too are an Israelite, no matter what you may look like, because as pertaining to Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18, your lineage is determined by the line of your forefathers. So that's your nationality, depending on who your forefathers were. So in this lesson, I want to get into a bit of the entertainment and mirth of this kingdom being brought to a cease, being brought to a halt by the Most High. So I've got some articles I want to read here, and it says, let's start with Cineworld, yeah? It says Cineworld confirms UK and US closures, and this is one from BBC News. Cineworld to shut down UK screens after James Bond film delay. So let's go to this one. It says Cineworld to shut down UK screens after Bond film delay. This was published on the 4th of October 2020. I think we're in the 5th of October, so this was published yesterday. So this says Cineworld is set to temporarily close its UK cinemas in the coming weeks. As first reported in the Sunday Times, the firm is writing to Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden to say the industry is now unviable. Yeah? The firm says it has been hit by delays in the release of big budget films, putting 5,500 jobs at risk. The premiere of the James Bond film No Time to Die has been postponed twice now and is due for release in April 2021. No one untouched. It is hoped that Cineworld cinemas will be able to reopen next year, with staff being asked to accept redundancy in the hope of rejoining the company when theatres open again. See, these people are proud, man. See how they say when? They don't say if, because this is a big if. You know, Lord willing, these things stay shut and they don't reopen again. But anyway, the head of the UK Cinema Association said he feared Cineworld closure was indicative of challenges faced by the entire UK cinema industry at the moment. Phil Clapp said, although cinemas opened in July and have been able to deliver a safe and enjoyable experience without major new titles, then we understand we aren't able to get as many people out of the home as we'd like. The Beck 2 Union says the delay in releasing the James Bond film has hit cinemas. He said no one would be untouched by the current challenges. Philippa Childs of the Entertainment and Broadcasting Union, Beck2, said the delay in the release of the James Bond film, along with other delayed releases, has plunged cinema into crisis. Studios will have to think carefully when considering release dates about the impact that it will have for the long-term future of the big screen. When approached by BBC, major UK chains View and Odeon refused to comment on how many cinemas they might be keeping open. The Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport said it was supporting cinemas through a VAT cut on tickets and concessions, business rates, holiday and bounce back loans. We urge the British public to support their local cinema and save jobs by visiting them and enjoying a film in accordance with the COVID-19 guidance. Mothballed cinemas. Cineworld sites in the US, where it operates 546 theatres, could also be forced to close. Cineworld said in a statement, "We can confirm we are now considering the temporary closure for our UK and US cinemas, but a final decision has not yet been reached. Once a decision has been made, we will update all staff and customers as soon as we can." In September, the firm reported a $1.6 billion, which is £1.3 billion, loss for the 6 months to June, as its cinemas had to close because of coronavirus lockdowns. And it warned at the time that it might need to raise more money in the event of further restrictions or film delays due to COVID-19. Cineworld is the second largest UK cinema operator and the largest within the UK with 120 sites. It also owns the Picture House chain of smaller venues. Interesting. Its other theatres globally include the Regal, Cinema City, and Yes Planet brands. Social distancing in cinemas. Let's see how far this goes. There's a bit more on this article. Let's read it because it's interesting to see. Social distancing in cinemas. According to the UK Cinema Association, operators should organise seating to ensure 2 metre distancing can be maintained. Where 2 metres is not viable, 1 metre with a risk mitigation is acceptable. Mitigation should be considered and those introduced set out in the risk assessment. But in Scotland, they must organise seating to ensure 2 metre distancing is maintained. It also says cinema should introduce a one-way flow through auditoriums and provide floor markings with signage to remind customers to follow social distancing wherever possible. The film industry had hoped the release of No Time to Die would spark a movie-going revival in the UK, with so many cinemas having been mothballed for months following the COVID-19 lockdown in March. But on Friday, the movie's release was further delayed till 2nd of April 2021 in order to be seen by a worldwide theatrical audience. Devastating year. Rob Arthur, an industry analyst at cinema strategist The Big Picture, said the current market is broken. It has been a very challenging year for both Cineworld and the world's largest cinema group AMC, he added. Film release schedules are being changed daily, never mind weekly basis. It has been a catastrophic, devastating year for operators. He said, the decision by Cineworld to put the UK operation into hibernation until next year made sense. You can't keep meeting the fixed operating costs of electricity, gas, air conditioning, staff, social distancing measures, and so forth, when audience numbers are only a small percentage of what they were before, he said. Meanwhile, customer confidence in visiting cinemas has to be restored, and I don't see that at the moment, Mr. Arthur added. The crowds you used to see in London, for example, going from work directly to the cinema are not there. He also said Cineworld's cash reserves were running low, and that both they and AMC had a higher percentage of financial liabilities compared with their assets. He added landlords to date have acted reasonably and the deferral of rent has helped the cinema industry, but that comes to an end as does the furlough payments, so the operators will have to seek remedies to restructure their business. Deals scrapped. As lockdown restrictions around the world were gradually lifted in mid to late summer, Cineworld had been able to open 561 out of its 778 sites worldwide. But lockdown closures meant its group revenue sank to $712.4 million in the first 6 months of the year compared to $2.15 billion a year earlier. The group's loss this year has also marked a huge fall from the pre-tax profits of $139.7 million seen in the first 6 months of 2019. However, when it had released those financial figures, Cineworld said recent trading had been encouraged considering the circumstances, with solid demand for Christopher Nolan's spy film Tenet, which was released in September. In June, Cineworld pulled out of a $2.1 billion deal to buy the Canadian cinema chain Cineplex, a move which could lead to a legal battle. It's not just Cineworld which has struggled this year, with the independent London cinema Peckham Flex closing its doors on the 25th of September due to falling visitor numbers and delayed releases. It had hoped to reopen in November around the time the next James Bond film was due to be released. So, this is very interesting, man. Let me go to another article. Now it says Odeon to only open cinemas at weekends. Now, this is published 25 minutes ago. Again from BBC News, 5th of October, it says, Odeon to open weekends only at some cinemas. Odeon is cutting the opening hours for some of its cinemas in the UK and Ireland to weekends only because of delays to new film releases. The chain, which operates 120 theatres, said it would affect a quarter of its cinemas, which are now open between Friday and Sunday. Odeon, which employs 550 people, declined to comment on job cuts. It comes as Cineworld said it will temporarily close its UK and US venues, affecting 45,000 jobs. Yeah. According to movie magazine Film Stories, Odeon emailed customers to tell them that from Friday the 9th of October, it was temporarily reducing hours at some cinemas in light of the ongoing delays of the release of many new films. The changes announced by Odeon Cinema and Cineworld come after the release of the new James Bond film was delayed again. On Monday, Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged people to return to cinemas. He said it would encourage people to go to the cinema, enjoy themselves and support movie theatres. However, the cinema industry has been hit by absence of However, the cinema industry has been hit by an absence of blockbuster movies to lure in customers. Cineworld employs around 5,500 people in the UK, and its chief executive, Mookie Gredinger, says, "We did everything in our power to support safe and sustainable reopenings in all of our markets." The company did not give a date for reopening its 663 cinemas, which include 127 Cineworld and Picture House theatres in the UK. Okay, interesting. Mr. Gredinger says the company cannot underscore enough how difficult the decision to close the sites was. Cineworld will continue to monitor the situation closely and will communicate any future plans to reopen its theatres in markets at the appropriate time when key markets have more concrete guidance on their reopening status, and in turn studios are able to bring their pipeline of major releases back to the big screen, he said. One woman was crying. Was it? Hey, it's Edomite, beautiful. Edomite crying. Rosalind Lloyd, 30, found out her job at Cineworld Theatre in Wolverhampton was under threat from social media at the weekend. She still doesn't know she'll get a wage this month. "We've been told nothing at all," Miss Lloyd told the BBC. "When I went to work yesterday, everyone had seen it on social media and everyone was down in the dumps, which is understandable. One woman was crying because she'd been there for 9 years. Miss Lloyd has worked at Cineworld for nearly 2 years and was placed on a furlough earlier this year, though she says because she is on a 0-hour contract, the payment was very low. Her immediate problem is a lack of information from Cineworld. Are they still going to pay us at the end of October? We just haven't heard anything at the moment. We're all waiting for a call. It's a waiting game." Bond delay final straw. No Time to Die, which is reportedly actor Daniel Craig's final outing as 007, is a key movie release that had been due in cinemas in April this year, but it was then postponed until November because of the coronavirus pandemic. The release date has now been moved to April next year. So this film's coming out 1 whole year later. "I think the Bond movie is the straw that broke the camel's back, to be honest," said Richard Mitchell, director of theatrical insights at Gower Street and Analytics. "A lot of films have been moving for some time now, and ultimately the cinemas need a pipeline of regular content to draw cinema goers in," he told the BBC News programme. So let's read this. It says, Cineworld operates in 11 countries: Slovakia, US, UK, Canada, Ireland, Poland, Romania, Israel, Hungary, Czech Republic, Bulgaria and Slovakia. Second biggest cinema chain in the world. 663 cinemas in the UK, in the US, and 536 in the UK. 127. 4,500 jobs at risk. 5,500 in the UK. 27% fall in share price at London stock market opening. The 007 film delay released. The release of the 007 film triggered the decision. While Christopher Nolan's film Tenet opened end of August, Mr. Mitchell said there had not been a major release since. Bond really was the one that the UK exhibitors were really relying on more than any, he said. Shares in Cineworld plunged early in trading, down 27% at 28.74p each. We had no movies. Tim Richards, founder and chief executive of the View Cinema chain, said the company had put safety measures in place at its theatres and noted that there was a pent-up demand like we had never seen before among customers to go out. However, he added, our problem right now is we have no movies, and this delay, the delay of the Bond film, was a big blow for us. We are likely going to make it through, Mr. Richards said, adding that View's goal is to try and keep as many of its 5,500 workers as possible. Mr. Mitchell said he had forecast previously that the UK box office takings would reach 500 million this year. The Bond movie obviously shaves a lot off of that, he said, and now that Cineworld is closing and we don't know when it will be reopening, it might be a struggle to get over 400 million. Mr. Richards said that outside the US, many cinemas had now reopened. Looking globally, right now, 75% of screens, maybe as high as 80% of screens are open. Even if you look at the numbers that Tenet generated in the UK, it is going to get very close to Christopher Nolan's previous film Interstellar, maybe 80 to 90% of what it did. The audience is there, and I think what we are seeing is the US studios in particular taking a very US-centric view and forgetting that 80% of the global box office comes from offshore and North America. Now, this is very interesting because I'm a guy who likes to watch good films. I've always been into good films, you know. Growing up, I used to watch a lot of cool films and shit. And just to give a little testimony, I went to watch some films recently at the cinema because they were showing some classics. Like, for example, they were showing The Empire Strikes Back, you know, the Star Wars film. And I love that film. It's one of my favourite Star Wars films. And I wasn't alive at the time when it was first released at cinema, which is in 1980. I was born a year later. But it was being re-released at cinema. So I thought, you know what, man, here's a great opportunity for me to catch a classic film on the big screen. So it must have been a week or two ago, I think. I went to watch it. And there was only one other dude in the cinema. And this is first of all, it's for a Star Wars film. Secondly, it's for you know, what is widely regarded as the best Star Wars film of them all. And I was sat in there and there's only one other guy in the cinema with me. Likewise, you know, they were showing some other classic films like, you know, the Rocky films, Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd caught Rocky 4 when I was a child, one of my favourite films ever, at the cinema, but I hadn't seen 1, 2, and 3 at the cinema. So I'm like, you know what, man, let me go and catch these films on the big screen. And I had a good time, it was great. But again, there was only like, in each film, no more than 2 or 3 other people in the cinema with me. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching these films, I'm thinking, how long can they continue to operate when the cinemas are virtually empty? You know, because they've got to pay rent, they've got to pay heating, they've got to pay electricity, they've got to pay all these overheads. And if they're not getting enough people in the cinemas to buy tickets, it's kind of like they're operating at a loss. So this news of the Cineworld closures comes as absolutely no surprise to me, and in fact it's actually music to my ears because it means we're one step closer to this kingdom falling. Now, another problem is that a lot of film studios, their production pipelines are all fucked up because of the COVID thing. They're not able to film the films because they have to, you know, get into, oh, we need to do social distancing and we have to do this, we have to do that. So it's totally fucking up the studio's ability to actually shoot these films and these TV series, which means there's going to be delay in productions, which means you're going to start to see less and less new content being put out. Like, you're not going to see as many new TV shows, you're not going to see as many new films because everything's becoming more difficult to produce. So this COVID thing's really pulling Esau's empire down, and it's beautiful to see. So let me just get some scriptures. We're going to start with the book of Ecclesiastes in the 12th chapter. This is the Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, when the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." And this is exactly what's happening, because, people aren't having any pleasure in these days anymore. People are having to sit down quietly in the dirt, I should say in the dust, and they're having to use their own minds and having to actually think about, well, what's going on in the world. You don't have all the entertainment anymore. You don't have all the distractions like, your football, your NBA, your motor racing, your boxing, all this kind of shit. You don't have the entertainment anymore. So now you're being forced to actually sit down and confront the reality that's around you. And it's not a very pleasant thing for many people to do. So it says, Ecclesiastes 12:1, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the light of the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain." Here's the point. "In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low." So basically, to break that down, the sound of the grinding means that there's not going to be much commerce, not going to be much business, not much trade taking place. So everything's going to be brought low. That's why it's going to be quiet, and it says the door shall be shut because the shops are shutting down. So it says, "And the door shall be shut in the streets, and the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." See, the entertainment is being brought low. "Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshoppers shall be a burden." Now, if I'm not mistaken, the grasshopper being a burden, meaning that the grasshoppers all the insects are going to eat the crops, "And desire shall fail, because man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about in the streets." Let me read Ecclesiastes 12:8. "Vanity of vanity, says the preacher, all is vanity." So, their plans of reopening when a new Bond film comes out, it's all vanity, man. It's not going to save the cinema industry. You can't save the film industry off the back of one film, I'm going to go to Sirach 9. No, not Sirach, Slucky, 2nd Ezra 9. I think that's what I want. Yeah. "He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs which I have told thee before, then thou shalt well understand that it is the very same time wherein the Highest shall begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world. Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For as like all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, the end is manifest. Even so the times also of the Highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. And every one that shall be saved shall be able to escape by his works, and by faith whereby ye have believed. They shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Then shall they be in pitiful case, which have abused my ways, and have cast them away despitefully. They shall dwell in torments. For as such in their life have received benefits and have not known me. And they that have loathed my law while they had yet liberty, and when as yet a place of repentance was open unto them, understood it not, but despised it, the same must know it after death by pain. So that's what's coming to you people out here who've despised the word of the Lord, who have despised the warning from the prophets. Your ending is coming. Your kingdom is at an end. And it says the same must know it after death by pain. Meaning that you guys, you're going to end up catching nukes, being burnt up in a thermonuclear destruction, and being caught up in the wrath of the Lamb when Yahushua returns. So you keep thinking that you can carry on in this Babylonian bullshit, thinking that you're going to be able to keep going to the pub, keep going to nightclubs and cinemas and restaurants and all this kind of shit. Keep thinking that, because it ain't going to happen. It's game over, man. The writing's on the wall. Like in the book of Daniel, man, the writing for Esau's kingdom is on the wall. So with that, giving all praise and all glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rahakodash, double honors to the elders and apostles of great and all stand up well. Shalom to your ark in pushing this word around the globe with faith and in truth and in sincerity. And Baba Kasha, Baba Kasha, Baba Kasha, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Abba Baba, Wash, Kwam Yeshua, Shalom.